Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been leading the country for the last 15 years, since 2010. He is a vibrant, ambitious politician who has a tense relationship with the European Union, but looks up to the US President Donald Trump. We take a look now at the man behind his strongman persona. Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, Viktor Orban has become an internationally known leader, friendly with President Trump and vocally critical of the European Union. His approach to the war in Ukraine has left him isolated in the EU, though Budapest is a contender to host the next peace talks. So, what does the future hold for Orban in both Hungary and Europe?
Aged just 35, Viktor Orban first came to power in 1998, promising to strengthen Hungary's national identity as part of his conservative Fidesz party. Despite defeat in the next two elections, Orban returned with a supermajority in 2010 and has since dominated Hungarian politics. In that time, he has strengthened his international profile through a close alliance with Donald Trump.
Viktor Orban has done a tremendous job in so many different ways, highly respected all over Europe.
He also has close ties with Russia's President Vladimir Putin. During the time Orban was not in power, Hungary became part of the European Union, and his relationship with the bloc is strained. Orban's opposition to Ukrainian aid and vetoes on Kiev's EU ambitions have drawn criticism from Brussels, leaving even Trump's support unable to help him from political isolation.
Ukraine, or what will be left of it, will again become a buffer zone. It will not be a NATO member. But will it be a member of the European Union? That will be decided by the Hungarians. Ukraine will never be a member of the European Union against the interest of Hungary and the interest of the Hungarians.
At home, inflation remains among the highest in Europe. Food prices are squeezing households, and underfunded hospitals have led to public protests. For the first time since taking office, Orban's Fidesz party is behind in some opinion polls, as the Tsiza party appears to be growing. It presents itself as a far-right light alternative that is pro-EU and speaks for younger voters. With an election due next spring, what challenges is Orban facing? And how is he attempting to overcome them to extend his term as Hungarian leader?
Well, let's bring in our guests for this one. In Budapest, we have Andras Laszlo. He is a Hungarian politician from the Fidesz party and a member of the European Parliament from the Patriots for Europe group. In Rome, we have Thomas Lorman. Thomas is Associate Professor in Hungarian History at University College London School of Slavonic and East European Studies. And in Geneva, we have Gunilla von Hall. Gunilla is Foreign Affairs Correspondent at the Swedish daily newspaper Svenska Dagbladet. You're all very welcome to Roundtable, guys. First of all, Andras, I'll come to you. I want to begin by looking at Viktor Orban, the man, away from the politician and everything he's achieved with 4 landslide victories in your country. What's he like to be around as a person?
Well, Mr. Orban is a very ambitious person, someone who has a lot of experience, a lot of will, a lot of determination and vision for Hungary and vision for Europe. So he's someone who's very motivating to be around, to work with. And he's an unquestionable leader, not only in the Fidesz party, but also in Hungary. And he's also a very recognized leader now internationally, which is quite unusual for a country of the size of Hungary. We are a country of a bit less than 10 million inhabitants. We have no particularly important natural resources, yet Hungary has been punching above its weight in European politics, especially since the migration crisis. And I think what makes Viktor Orban special among European leaders today is the fact that he has been in the front line of politics in the last 35 years. He spent 16 years in opposition. He spent now close to 20 years as prime minister in government. So he has ample experience, and he remains very, very popular because we have, as a conservative alliance of Fidesz and the Christian Democrats, we have delivered very successful, very popular policies in terms of family policy, in terms of border control and stopping illegal immigration, in terms of standing up for peace when it comes to the war in Ukraine, and in terms of standing up against what has been increasingly a very, what we say in Hungarian, toxic green policy coming from the West, and the woke policy in terms of social policy coming from both the United States during the Democrat administrations and also from Brussels. So we have a very strong patriotic leader who thinks in terms of sovereignty when it comes to the European Union. And I think that makes him a very special character in the European political stage.
Thanks, Andras. Thomas, to you, it's 35 years since the fall and the end of communism. And of those 35 years, Orban has been in charge for a total of 19 out of the 35. What is it about this man that makes him so popular at home in Hungary, anyway?
It's a great question. And I think the one thing that really makes Orban outstanding is his ability to embody and encapsulate many of the attitudes shared by a large number of Hungarians. He was the golden boy of the period when communism collapsed, the communist dictatorship collapsed in Hungary in 1989. And he embodied many of the hopes and aspirations of the country with his calls for a new Hungary that would emerge. His own party is the Young Association of Young Democrats, which was a youthful vision for the future. And then Orban himself, like many Hungarians, found the 1990s and the 2000s very sobering. He lost 4 of the first 5 elections in which he competed. And so he became a more hard-nosed, tougher-minded individual. Some people would say he's a cynical individual. Other people would say he's a hard-nosed realist who is able to essentially regard politics as about advancing your own party, personal, and national interests. And it's his tough, hard way of viewing the world that I think has really made him encapsulate a hardness and a toughness that a large number of Hungarians feel about the very difficult way that the last 35 years have played out. The idealism and optimism that came with the fall of communism has been replaced by a whole series of challenges, financial, social, educational, cultural, trying to support the minorities in other countries. And all of these challenges, Orban would argue, require hard-nosed politics to manage. And that toughness of the man, that personal ability to say, I've had it tough, you've had it tough, and we've got to be tough together, has given him tremendous support all the way down from 2010. In fact, he will be, by the end of this year, Hungary's longest serving prime minister.
Thanks,
and I
Thomas.
think that is a testament to his political skills.
Thank you. Gunilla, this toughness, it may well go down very well in Hungary with a domestic audience, but in Brussels and in many corners of the European Union, people, I won't say they don't like him, but they're certainly very suspicious of Viktor Orban. Is that correct?
It's very correct. It's very correct. This hardness and toughness doesn't go down well in many corners of Europe, of the EU. And actually for the EU, Orban is a headache. He's a source of tension, of controversies, of concern. And there are many examples. They're billing the NGOs as foreign agents, most of them, meaning that they can't really work in the country. It's like similar to in Russia, where you have foreign financial support, and then they are billed as foreign agents. The very aggressive stand on refugees and migration is not in harmony with the rest of the EU. We remember 2015, how Hungary And Orban acted, closing the borders, putting the fences, being very tough on this pushback policy. So the last point I want to make that is it's a tough issue for the EU is Hungary's stand with Ukraine and Russia, because the way it's seen is that Orban is hindering or delaying or blocking tougher sanctions on Russia, is really negative, very opposition minded when it comes to Ukraine joining the EU and so forth. And this is creating also, so the EU, Hungary becomes a weak link because the EU wants to have a tougher stand on Russia. And here, Orban, Slovakia too, to a certain extent, is becoming a weak link because from the EU's point of view, there is a question: is Hungary turning more to the east, to Russia, to China, than to the EU and to the West?
Thanks,
So
Gunilla.
these are some of the reasons why there is a lot of controversy and tension.
Andras, back to you. So we've heard there that Hungary is a headache for the European Union, that there are a lot of issues in your country. Talk to me frankly about the relationship with the European Union. Viktor Orban pulls no punches. He argues back. He argues his case for Hungary. He has his own interests and Hungary's at heart. Hand on heart, what is the Hungarian view of the EU?
Well, there have been so many points here raised, it's hard to react to each and every one of them. But generally speaking, regarding all of these points which have been raised, the issue, first and foremost, the way we see it, is that the EU and most Western governments have made the wrong decisions on strategic matters. When it comes to social policy, whether it's mass immigration or LGBTQ and gender ideology, whether it's economic policy and green overregulation, which is causing distress for the European industry, whether it's the sanctions regime against Russia, all of these have failed. They have put Europe in a worse position than it was 10 or 20 years ago. And now a lot of people who have criticized Hungary and our government for being tough on illegal immigration now recognize that we've been right on this. When it comes to green overregulation, we are now in this European parliamentary cycle slowly rolling back some of the policies which were adopted in the last cycle. We as Patriots, we want to do this quicker because we want to support European businesses. We want to support European households. We need cheaper energy in Europe. And as long as the war keeps going, as long as the sanctions are in place, Europe is not going to have it better. And if you've just listened to the German chancellor speak recently, he admitted a lot of these difficulties Germany finds itself in. And if Germany finds itself in a difficult position socially and economically, it means most of Europe finds itself in a difficult position. A lot of the tension with the European Union and with Brussels comes from the fact that Viktor Orban and our government have called these issues the right way. We've made the right decisions. We've made popular decisions in these regard. And of course, for most of our European allies, this comes off. They are envious of the position and we are in domestically. And of course, they don't like the fact, our opponents don't like the fact that we were right on a lot of these issues. When it comes to choosing between East and West and choosing between in the war between Russia and Ukraine, whether we stand on whose side we stand, we get this criticism a lot. But we say always the same thing. This is not our war. It is not in Hungary's interest to have this war going on. What we stand for is peace. What we want from day one. We've promised from day one that we will not deliver weapons to Ukraine. We will provide, and we have provided humanitarian aid. We want this war to end, and that is our first priority. And we are the only European country, and Viktor Orban is the only leader in European member states, which is on good terms both with the leadership in Washington, which is in good terms with leadership in Russia, and on good terms with leadership in China. A lot of the difficulties of Europe cannot be solved if you're not willing to talk to major global power centers. Hungary can.
Thomas, do you think that Budapest might be a viable location then if we do see peace talks directly between Russia and Ukraine in the next few weeks?
It's possible Budapest was floated as a particular location. I don't think the Ukrainians would regard it as a neutral venue. But who knows? We constantly are surprised by each turn and twist of these diplomatic arrangements. Right? On the broader point, I think Andras is absolutely right that Orban has been able to cultivate good relations and maintain good relations with Washington, Moscow, Beijing, but he hasn't maintained good relations with Ukraine. If anything, they're getting worse. And while it is understandable that Hungary has concerns about Ukrainian politics, there are, for example, the Ukrainian government introduced, even before the invasion of its own country by Russia, restrictions on the use of the Hungarian language and other ways in which the Hungarians could feel more marginalized, the Hungarian minority in Ukraine. The real problem is that Orban and his government started from the beginning of this conflict with a lack of faith in Europe and the West to really be able to defend Ukraine. Their bet, and it's not an unreasonable bet, is that Russia will have the advantage in this war. And it is, I think, reflective of the way Orban sees the world, that for him, you've got to work with the big powers. You've got to work with the winners. A moral, idealized, optimistic vision is not appropriate for the tough part of the world in which Hungary finds itself. And that's his way of seeing things. I would just add, however, that there are lots of Hungarians who are concerned about this policy. It really is a divisive policy within Hungary, and a number of Hungarians are very, very sympathetic towards Ukraine and feel that more should be done. So I think it's a polarizing issue there. But Orban has taken a position which is that reality has to be faced, and Europe is not capable of fully defending Ukraine. And on that, the question remains open whether Europe really can achieve the defense of Ukraine that Orban questions.
Thanks, Thomas. Gunilla, I interviewed the Hungarian Foreign Minister, Péter Szijjártó, earlier this year at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. And I wanted to get into the issue of the relationship with President Trump and President Orban. And what he said to me was, he said, what you need to understand is we were Trump before there was Trump. How much do you think Orban has influenced the American president?
I think they're influencing each other. There's even talk in the US about this urbanization of America and of the MAGA movement. And I think there's a lot of similarities between them in their ideology, also in their personalities. And Trump has portrayed Orban as very tough and efficient leader. Many of the things that were mentioned before about Orban is something that Trump is repeating. He's calling him a smart guy, a tough guy, no one is better, he's the boss, and so forth. I remember that Orban was one of the first ones going to Mar-a-Lago with Trump. So they definitely have a good relation. And I think it is also because they have the same leadership style. And for Trump's point of view, he likes Orban a lot also because of the way he has his security and immigration policy, because that is something we know for Trump is important. The border control, sovereignty, and so forth, keeping your country safe. That is something that he thinks that Orban is doing. Orban is thinking that Trump is doing it. And then they share this kind of ideology that they both reject the globalist agendas. They are against the power being concentrated in Brussels or in Washington, the political establishment, and not least, they're both against everything that's woke. And that is something that they have in common.
Thanks, Gunilla. Andras, back to you. I just want to ask you about migration and how Hungary has achieved what it has with migration, because we're in London, in the United Kingdom. 50,000 people have come to the UK illegally in the past year since Keir Starmer came to power. Migration will probably be one of the major talking points at the next election in the UK. And I think perhaps some politicians in the UK would not say it out loud, but they're slightly in admiration of Orban and how he has dealt with the issue in Hungary.
Well, look, I'm not surprised. If we compare Budapest to either London or any other European capital, what we have in Budapest is safety. We don't have grooming gangs. We don't have violent crime surging. You can, in this is now especially, you know, a touristic season, a holiday season, many foreigners visiting Budapest. And in the middle of the night, they can walk home back to their hotels, back to their cars. They can safely take a taxi without worrying about crime. This is something which is now alien to most European capitals. And Hungary has been benefiting of this very tough stance against illegal immigration, which we have taken up during the 2015 migration crisis. And now we are reaping the benefits. We have a safe capital city where I'm not afraid of my children going out in the streets. Young people are not afraid to hang out in the middle of the night and party. And tourists feel the same way. I've had so many good feedback from foreigners in Budapest, which they are totally amazed about how safe and how clean the city is. When in fact, this used to be the case in every European capital city 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. Change has come about very, very quickly. In Budapest, you don't have a lot of knife attacks, you don't have gun violence, you don't have bombings, and obviously, you don't have a linguistic or ethnic tension, which we see, unfortunately, in many European capitals, where you have no-go zones, where you have.
But Andras,
schools.
many people would say that migration does have its positives, though. Many people would say migration does bring, you know, workers in. It does have positive side to it as well.
Exactly, but why not do it like we've always done it for decades, that you control migration? We say no to mass illegal immigration. We also need, from time to time, in different sectors, labor, foreign labor, but they come legally. We select them based on the skills, where they come from. We know who they are, and they have a determined time for their working permit, after which they have to leave. They do not choose to come to Hungary themselves. We allow them to come, and therefore it is controlled. And it's people who come here who have a job, who have perspectives, and then who are then planning to go back home and build their own lives.
Andras, just one very brief final point from you on migration. What do you make of what's happening in the UK at the moment with all these people coming across in dinghies from France?
It's very sad to see. And to be honest, it shouldn't be the UK which is defending its borders against the dinghies. The UK has no immediate border with unsafe countries for hundreds or even thousands of miles. It's exactly the same situation Hungary found itself in 2015. We were surrounded by safe countries. But because other countries did not control their own borders, did not defend their own borders against illegal immigration, they had been able to reach Hungary and try to enter the EU through Hungary. Those people who come to the UK should in fact be stopped at the French border or the Belgian border or the Italian border or the Spanish border. Unfortunately, this is not the case. That's why the UK has to defend itself. It's unfair for the UK, and the UK should be demanding of the EU countries to defend the EU's borders, just like Hungary does.
Thanks, Andras. Thomas, I want to look ahead to the elections due to happen in April of next year. Péter Magyar of the opposition party Tsiza, he is leading quite comfortably.
Yeah, the polls are mixed. I mean, some put them ahead, some put them close, some polls still put Orban in the head. But the key thing is that from 2010, even a little bit earlier, the Hungarian opposition has proved to be totally chaotic, fractured between numerous political parties who attempted occasionally to come together, and it didn't work very well. Right now, there is one major opposition party that has united all of the disparate groups within Hungary who don't like the Orban regime, and that's quite significant. Orban's popularity in Hungary should not be overestimated. He's popular, but there's a significant opposition to him. Previously, it was fractured. Now it's united among this guy, Péter Magyar. But the second point, and I think more revealing in some ways, is that Magyar comes out of the Fidesz party. He used to be a very strong supporter of Orban. He broke away, partly for personal reasons, partly because he sensed an opportunity, partly because he has some ideological differences. But Peter Magyar is a right-wing politician. And so, in a sense, what we have is the Orban right against the Magyar right. They have their differences, but they both come from the right of the political spectrum. And that in itself tells us something about the profound conservatism of Hungarian or right-leaning culture of Hungary at the moment, which I think comes out of my earlier point about a significant disillusionment with the idealized vision of the future and the liberal vision of the future that was popular in 1989.
Thank you, Andras, Thomas, and Gunilla as well. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Just search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all the team here, goodbye, and thank you for watching.